Hello everyone, welcome back to FX021. So in today's lesson, we're gonna cover how to make terrain in Houdini, and then later we will input into Unreal Engine. So let's get started. So first thing first, we disable the sandfire ball and the particle here, and let's dive into the terrain. Okay. So start with the height field node here. You can see when we create a height field node, it will create a plane. Looks like a plane, but it's actually not a geometry. If you press W on your keyboard, you can see there's no like division here. So it's actually a 2D volume here. Okay, if you hover your mouse here and see there are only 2 points, 2 primitive. It's actually a volume. You can see this here. So it got XY but no Z value here. So it's a 2D volume. Okay. So you can change your size here. So maybe 500 here. Okay. So let's keep it default here. So 1000 times 1000. And now we want to add some noise, just like you create a grid node here, but this one is a geometry, okay? This one is a geometry. So yeah, the size are the same, but this one is a polygon. You can see they have primitives here, okay? And now we have our height field node. We want to create some noise. So the height field noise is just like the mountain sop in the Houdini, but it will create noise on the volume. So when you create height field noise, it looks like this. You can play around with the amplitude, element size. I think these are the same in the mountain sop here. You can see we have amplitude and element size, I think. Right? So now we got this. For me, it looks like too much noise. Like you can clearly see it's generated by noise, which we don't like. So we want to break up the pattern a little bit. So what we do is the height field distort node. Okay. The layer it will distort is the height. So let's visualize. Now you can see the noise is distort in a pattern here. Okay. And you can play around with the element size as well and the amplitude. Okay. For me, this is good. You can copy the value here. Now we got our height field erode node. Okay, so if you hover mouse here, and you can see we got height and mask layer here, but after the height field erode node, we got a lot of more mask here. Okay, we got water, debris, bedrock, etc. So, and it's a simulation actually. You can see we will simulate 30 frames, and then we will freeze at the frame 30. So that's what we got here. We can go to the visualization here and click on visualize. Okay, I mean yours may look different. You can click the computer range here, so it will compute the range for you. Okay, and these blue are the water, and these are the, they are like just the layers. Okay, it will create layers and mask for you, so that later we can use as a mask in the Unreal and assign different textures for our terrain. Okay, and you can go to the main here, adjust the value here. Okay, for each layer. And you can play around the value here, so it will simulate, and when it's done, it will generate a terrain. Okay, so let's turn off the visualize here. This is before, this is after. Okay, and let's create a height field visualize node here. Okay, and this height field sum here, take out the details in the lower part. Okay, so you can see it's more flat here. You can play around the value here, and why it's take out the details in the lower part, because we have bind the material to slump to the water, and you know the water here in here is, if we visualize here, it's the one here. So that's the area we want to slump. Okay, if we visualize the water layer here, let's delete the color here. So the terrain is white, and the water here we want to visualize is blue. So these are the part we want to slump, and you can see here. Okay, you can use on other layers like bedrock. Okay, bedrock is more large. Maybe, yeah, you can use on other layers, but I snap on the water layer. Okay, and I have remap the use a height field remap. The layer to remap is debris. Let's visualize debris first. So let me find debris. Okay, so this is debris layer, which is the blue part. This is before the height field remap. The debris layer looked like this, and now we use a remap node. Okay, you can see the difference. Yes. Okay, this is just like in the attribute wrangle, we usually use the fit range, so it will remap the minimum and maximum value to a new range. Okay, so you can play around the slider here, so it will give you a different result. You can see. And the debris layer, which we will use for our mask. Okay, we will not use the mask they generate for us. Okay, we will create our own mask based on their mask. Okay, so this is the debris mask, and we invert it. So in the volume warp here, what I do is I just input use the bind to bind the debris, and complement is just 1 minus debris value, and I just output bind export the debris value here. So you can see when I invert, the blue here is our debris value. Okay, this is before, and then we invert it. Okay, so now we will finally generate our 3 masks for our terrain. So let's put our visualize here. So here we got mask clear node here. Okay, so the mask clear node, the layer we want use is the mask, and we set value to 1, so it turn all red here. Okay, and the height field copy layer here, the source is debris, which is the one here, the blue one, and we copy the layer to the mask layer. So now if we visualize here, if we visualize the mask layer, it's the same. Okay, the mask layer is copied, the debris layer is copied to the mask, so the mask is equal to the debris layer. And you remember we got mask here, so which is value 1, and we got mask here. So in the height field layer here, we set it to subtract, and the layer to subtract is the mask. So we subtract this one to this layer, and we got this. Okay, so this is the layer we got after we subtract this layer to this layer, and this is the mask layer we got. And for mask, why we do this is because we don't want overlap layers. So maybe in a real engine you have this red mask here, and maybe you have other mask inside the red mask, which we don't want. We want red mask here, and we want slime mask here in the white area, and some mask here. So they are not overlapping with each other, so we can better blend between each materials. So we don't want to overlap map here. So that's why we subtract the value. So we have the red ones occupied here. So what we left is the white ones here we can use for our mask, okay? So that's what we're gonna do next. So here we got debris and mask. And you can see here, you can see these red ones are occupied, so what we left is the white ones. So the white ones are here, okay? Because these ones are inverted, because we subtract the red one to this one, okay? So this one, these red ones are the one we want to use for mask. And so what I do here is I create another height field remap. So mask we want to remap is our mask, and I remap based on this here, okay? The default is here, so it's the same. So I just move the slider like this. So it's more like, so the mask is look like this. And what we do is subtract this mask and this mask, and we get this mask. Okay, so now these three masks are not overlap with each other. You see? These two are not overlap, and these three are not overlap. So we got three different masks without overlapping with each other. And then we can use these masks in Unreal and assign materials to them. So now let's, because they are separate layers, now we want to convert them back. So in the height field copy layer here, which is the main one, which we do here, there is a height field copy layer. The height field copy layer, I just create a layer, the empty layer. So mask here, source is mask, destination is rock 3, and the source is mask, destination rock 2, destination rock 1. So now if we visualize the rock 3 here, should be the same. So now you can see this is the mask. We can see this is because we have red color here and they add together, so we got this color, but it's okay. Let's change it to red, so it's okay. So the mask rock 3, rock 2, rock 1, they are all the same, okay? We just create the mask for them, but all of them are the same, okay? So this marks are for rock 3, and now we have the rock 1 and rock 2 here. So after we calculate, subtract our mask here, this one is still called mask, so we want to copy the mask to the rock 1 layer. So now the mask is called rock 1, and here as well, this one is called mask as well, so we want copy the mask layer to the rock 2 layer. So we got rock 3 layer, rock 1 layer, and rock 2 layer, and now we can convert them back. So in the height field layer here, the layer mode is set to replace. So what layer I want to replace is the rock 1, which we create here, because you know here rock 1 is still look like this, okay? So after we replace, this is our rock 1. And we have replaced the rock 2 as well, okay? And now we have rock 1, rock 2, and rock 3 together, and they are not overlapping each other, and they are on this height field, okay? So we can mask clear it, so we don't see any red. And now let's create a height field visualize. Before, because it has a red color on it, so it's a little bit confused. But now let's say this is our rock 1, rock 2, rock 3. So this is our layer now with 3 different colors here, and that's what we can do in Unreal. You can use this as a grass actually, and this as rock, and this is another rock material. And you can see in Unreal, these are 3 different materials, and they are not overlapping with each other, so they will not have blend issues, okay? Blending issues. And the terrain is basically down here. So now we want to scatter object on it, so we can use the height field scatter, which is a bit of very similar to the scatter node we use often. So here is the proxy geo I create. So just a sphere, sphere here with the radius 1.1 on the z-axis, and a mountain node, put it in the center here, and color them and pack it, and the rock 2 here as well, just for a different color here. And in the height field scatter here, just scatter them on the height field, okay? So the tag name you can use $OS, which will be the node name here. So if you see, it's rock 1, which is the same as here. So when you scatter the rock, you can play around with the total point count. You can play around the outer radius value and the range, mask cutoff, random size up. So you can rotate these rocks and the different seed values here, okay? Same as the rock 2, I use another height field scatter. So you can, this is the same, you can play around with the random size up, random global seed, and range here. But one thing different here is you see the scatter method here. On the rock 1, I'm using the total point count using mask layer. So I'm the mask layer I use is the rock 1. If we visualize our rock 1 here, so I scattered this rock on the red area, okay? So I scatter rock on this rock 1 layer, and for the rock 2, I use the scatter method set to per point count using the source point. And the source point, so he need a source point tag. The tag we use is the rock 1. The rock 1 comes from here, so the tag name here is the rock 1. Okay, we said it before. So this point will scatter around these red rock here, so they will not overlap with the red rock. They will scatter points around these red rocks. So if you have a tree here, you want these grass around these trees, you can use the per point count using the source point. So they will scatter around these red rocks, red trees as well. But in this demo, it's not that obvious. So, but I just use this method to scatter the second rock so they don't overlap with the red ones. Okay. So when it's done, I use the height field transform to make it larger. So this is before, this is after. Make sure you use the height field transform, not the transform node. So you see in the height field transform, we transform 10 times. If we use the transform node and transform 10 times, you can see it's flat. Okay? That's because it's a 2D volume, so you can't transform a volume just using a transform node. You need to use the height field transform. So all the details we made is there, and it's just doing the transform here. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it for today. That's how you make terrain in Houdini. And later, I will teach you how to import this into Unreal. So see you later.